Hello, this is episode 4 of the Payne Report, and today we're going to be recapping a national championship game, as well as recapping Super Wildcard Weekend. But first, I would like to shout out my Twitter and Instagram. You can keep up to date mainly on my Twitter. I'm trying to post more on Instagram, trying to figure it out. But anyways, my Twitter is at CP4227, and my Instagram is at PayneRCam4227, and a little update on the podcast. Next week, new semester from at my university starts, and I'll be trying to focus on school. I'm going to try to get at least one episode out per week. If I can do that, manage classes and working too, I would like to get at least one episode out per week. But anyway, regarding some of the housekeeping stuff, let's just get right into the episode. So the national championship game, it was played on Monday night. I'm recording this the day after on Tuesday. And at first, it was looking like it was going to be a great game. I mean, it was 14-14 going into the second quarter. Despite Ohio State's 3-and-out to start the game and even losing Trey Sermon on the first play of the game, their backup running back Master T came in and really responded well. And after Ohio State's first drive, they responded to Alabama's touchdowns with touchdowns of their own. It was 14-14 heading into the second quarter. But unfortunately, in the second quarter, this is where the two teams separated in terms of where they are at. So I want to mention that on Alabama's first drive, they went for it on 4th and goal, and they scored. And similarly, Ohio State had a similar situation in the second quarter when they were down 21-14. It was 4th and goal, but instead, unlike Alabama, instead of going for it, they didn't, and they decided to kick the field goal. And at that point, I knew Ohio State was going to lose this game because they couldn't stop Alabama on offense. And I think just going for it there told Bama's defense that, okay, it just gave them more confidence. It's like, okay, we stopped them. Let's do it again. And I think it gave them more confidence. And it really showed as Ohio State only scored 24 points on the night after that. Only scored one touchdown after that on the night, resulting in 24 points. So Alabama, they just toyed with Ohio State on offense. It was amazing what they did. Devontae Smith in general too. He had 12 catches for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, holy cow! And Jalen Waddle actually came out surprising. Saban did said he may have suited up and may play. He suited up and he played a little bit. When he took that first drag route on their first touchdown drive, he took the drag route, caught the ball, running a 4-2, and then almost scored. And then you see him like limping off. I'm like, holy cow, how is he running full speed? Because in between plays, he'd be limping to the sideline. And it's like, how is he playing, let alone running full speed for a couple plays? So that was insane to see there in terms of like these players and their recovery and just how they come back from injury is just amazing. And I have to say, I do have to agree with the NFL players tweeting last night, such as A.J. Brown, and saying that, hey, Waddle, just sit, man. I know you want to play, but just sit. You got your future ahead of you. And even Torrey Smith said that too. So I was like, hey, man, just sit. You got your future ahead of you. But man, it's like every time he caught the ball, I did kind of fear that he was going to re-aggravate that injury potentially worse. But it goes to the heart of him and the heart of that team Saban has built there. Going into halftime, the score was 35-17. As I mentioned, after Ohio State kicked that field goal, it just seemed to be the turning point. Bama would score 2 more touchdowns to end out the half. Their defense was flying to the ball, playing more confident. And also, another note I wanted to talk about was whenever Devontae Smith went on like a little motion towards the backfield or just to the other side of the field, it's like when he saw that little motion, everyone knew he was getting the ball. And the fact that Ohio State couldn't stop that says something, just in terms of the play of Devontae Smith, but also the Ohio State defense. And another thing, when Alabama was in scoring position, whenever Mac Jones threw to Devontae Smith while they were in scoring position, it was like, okay, he's going to score. Like, everyone knew. It's similar with the motion plays. Whenever you saw him motion, you knew he was going to get the ball. When they did the motion play down the goal line, as soon as Devontae got the ball, I'm like, that's a touchdown. And then it comes to the play right before the second half ended. Their Alabama, I think it was their last touchdown before the half ended. Um, Devontae Smith split the safety and he split the linebacker covering him, running a seam route over the middle. And Mac Jones looked off the safety, found him, threw the ball, and it was just a race after that. And I tell you what, it looked like Devontae Smith was running at 70% speed. It looked like he was not running at full speed. And the linebacker covering him was on a full-on sprint. And I'm like, man, that is just insane. And how fast he is, what an athlete it is. And also, it's kind of disrespectful that Ohio State put a linebacker on him, considering he's the Heisman winner, and he's just flat out probably outside of Jalen Waddle, one of the best athletes on the field. So it does suck that he did get hurt in the second half. It looked to be he may have broken maybe one or two fingers. So hopefully those heal up fast. He should be ready and healthy for the NFL draft going into rookie minicamp, OTAs, depending if they have all that, pending COVID, obviously. But he should be healthy, ready to go. And I think any team that drafts him is going to be happy. Same thing with Jalen Waddle. It showed a lot of his character being out there last night, showing that he wanted to play for his team. And I think that's going to say a lot to NFL GMs, and I think any NFL team would love to have him. Bama looked dominant. They looked like the number one team that they were basically when the whole college football playoff seeding started back in, I believe, the second week of October. So, I believe it was the first week of November, my bad. And they looked like they went wire to wire on that, and they looked like number one team, and they deserve to be national champions. So, anyway, that is my recap of this year's national championship game. It looked like it was going to be a good one, but then Alabama pulled away and showed why they are the number one team, why they are national champions, and why they are Alabama. Saban getting his 7th national championship overall. He had one at LSU, 6 at Alabama, and Alabama getting their 18th national championship overall. So anyways, before the national championship game, we got the pleasure to see Super Wildcard Weekend, and I'm going to go into break down every game and kind of just my takeaways. I did watch some of the games, some of them I didn't. I just watched the highlights because I knew they were going to be blowouts, like the Saints and Bears, which I'm going to dive into right now. So the Saints dominated the Bears. I think this game really just spelled the end for Mitchell Trubisky as the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. He didn't really have like a super stellar game, but we go 19 of 29. 10 incompletions is not bad, but only threw for 199 yards. And he had a garbage time touchdown to Jimmy Graham that just basically had the Bears cover. So the defense for the Chicago Bears played well. I think it's the same thing all season. The defense plays well, and then the offense doesn't show up. And that sucks to be someone playing on defense because you think the offense is going to bail you out. I can attest to this. I'm a Titans fan because back when Marcus Mariota was a quarterback for a couple years, it was the defense would play tough and the team just couldn't put up points, and that's how they would lose. And I think this is the same case here with Mitchell Trubisky. He just can't drive them on offense. They had this, and I think also it's not just Mitchell Trubisky. I think a lot of it's Matt Nagy too. Because when Nick Foles was in there, outside of the game against Atlanta, he really didn't have too many eye-dropping performances, and the Bears just looked bad. He just looked terrible, old on offense. It just didn't look good, and this game showed as the final score was 21-9. The Bears defense did a good job of holding Kamara to under 100 yards rushing. He had one scoring touchdown, 2 catches for 17 yards, so to hold basically Alvin Kamara to just a little bit over 100 all-purpose yards and one score is really, really good. And holding Michael Thomas to under 100 yards and holding him to one score is very, very good for your defense. So the defense had a good enough performance to go out and win this game, but the offense was stuck with Mitchell Trubisky. I think the play calling was probably atrocious too. I think the only thing that kept this game alive was probably the Nickelodeon broadcast. I think that's the only reason why people probably watched it. They probably didn't even watch the CBS one. They said, hell with it. Bears suck. Let's turn on a Nickelodeon broadcast and see what the hell that's all about. And seeing some of the highlights out of that was kind of hilarious. But, yeah, this is probably Matt Nagy. I think if Matt Nagy is not fired this at the end of this run, at the end of the season, well, I mean, the season is over. I mean, if Matt Nagy isn't fired in the next coming days, the next couple weeks, he's on a very, very hot seat and has a very short leash for next season, I believe. And I do not see Mitchell Trubisky as the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears next season. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option. He's going to hit free agency. He's probably going to be back up somewhere. So that is the end of the Mitchell Trubisky era. And yeah, that's it. Mitchell Trubisky just didn't pan out in the NFL. First round bust. All right. Next up was the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. And the Rams came into play. They held Chef Russ and the Seahawks offense in check for most of the game. I believe they only held them to, I believe it was 20 or 13 points. I believe it was 20 points. I believe the final score was 30-20. And wow, I was not expecting that. I thought mainly because John Wolford was the starting quarterback for the Rams, and just that uncertainty at the quarterback position. I mean, even if Wolford ended up leaving the game because of an injury, but I mean, my initial thought going into the game, even if Wolford is benched for Jared Goff, I would see it as it was just not a good situation to pick the Rams there, so I was picking on the Seahawks to probably, do enough to score enough points to win because the Rams wouldn't be able to keep up. But that was not the case. The Rams showed why they have the number one defense. Aaron Donald played great, even though he got injured. And that's another thing going into this game. This win did come with a cost. Aaron Donald did get injured. He hurt his ribs. And Cooper Kupp, I saw the replay. I can't remember what the injury was, but it looked like something with his one of his knees. And it just didn't look good on replay when I saw it. So that will probably be an X factor looking in there towards that Packers game coming up. I mean, Jalen Ramsey locked down DK Metcalf outside of the one touchdown score for DK. I mean, he had a really long touchdown score. He had 2 touchdowns on the day, but outside of the really long touchdown score, he locked up DK. Russell Wilson 3 interceptions. Russell Wilson did just not look comfortable in this game for whatever reason it was. So I think that's just the pressure he faced. Just didn't look comfortable. Unfortunately, John Wolford did get hurt in this game, and Jared Goff came off the bench after having I believe it was thumb surgery or some surgery on his throwing thumb, on his throwing hand, and he didn't play great. He only completed 9 passes, but he did enough. He took snaps under center, he threw the ball downfield, and he had 1 touchdown pass that ultimately sealed the game for the Rams. So he did enough to win this game, and the defense carried him. And I believe Jared Goff actually did show some guts in this game. I mean, coming off of surgery and I believe it was 2 weeks ago or something like that. That's insane. So hats off to him. Hats off to the Rams. They're going to the next round, and they will face the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers. Next up, the game between the Washington football team and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think everyone had the Buccaneers winning this game, especially after the Washington football team head coach Ron Rivera announced that Taylor Heinicke would be starting. And I have to say, Taylor Heinicke surprised everybody because he took a shot and he ran with it. I mean, Taylor Heinicke was making throws, he was balling, and if his receivers didn't drop some of those passes, it would have been a very, very interesting game, even more to what it was. I believe if his receivers came down with some of those catches, it would have been a lot closer, and they could have really, really had a chance to win this game. But, I mean, he had 1 interception, but it's kind of like a fluky one because it was deflected off the pass. So, it was deflected at the defensive line. And what can you do about that? So, I mean, he ran for a touchdown. When he dove for that pylon, you saw he wanted it. And I have to say, probably the player of the game for the losing side, it's Taylor Heinicke because he put it all out there. And who knew that a quarterback from Old Dominion, who I believe he came into the league in 2015 undrafted, played in the AAF, played in the XFL, and he was taking college classes, I believe, and he was like that. He was a quarantine quarterback, quote unquote, because he was taking college classes in the fall. So like he wasn't suiting up for games. They were just telling him to stay in quarantine at that point, and and it's hard to believe. Like, could you imagine like being in a class with him at Old Dominion because he was still finishing up his degree, finishing up some classes, and can you imagine being in a class and be like, oh, this is a quarterback. Oh, holy cow, he started a playoff game. He was in my class. Like, that's got to be insane to think about that. But Taylor Heineke, hats off to him, showed it all on the field, and this kind of gets him in discussion, possibly, get himself a second contract somewhere. Maybe not as a starter. There's a question mark when it comes to starter, but he played himself into a conversation to be considered as a backup. And the NFL stands for not for long. Any way you can get on a roster, any way you can get paid, any way you can complete a year in that league to get a pension when you retire. It's any way you can get on a roster and get some type of completing the year, getting some type of money, just getting on a roster in general too. Getting that experience being a backup. I mean, Taylor Heineke, you can make a lot of money being a journeyman quarterback. I mean, look at Ryan Fitzpatrick, look at Tyrod Taylor, look at Josh McCown. Journeyman quarterbacks can make a lot of money in NFL because their services are always wanted. They have a knowledge of the game, and they want to and teams bring them in to mentor to young quarterbacks or to just have a competent backup when it's needed. So Taylor Heineke definitely played himself into a role as a consistent backup, a consistent journeyman possibly, and maybe if things pan out, if he plays his card right and just keeps playing like he did in that playoff game, he could be a starter with a really big question mark there. Really big question mark. Like, I'm talking a question mark that's the size of, like, the Empire State Building. That's a really big question mark there. But he did a lot of good things, and I would like to see him, possibly be a starter for a game or two and just see what you got in him. But I think Tom Brady looked good in that game, especially on his 2 touchdown passes. He did not look like a 43-year-old playing quarterback. And I find it funny, the graphic they showed in that game was him and George Blanda. George Blanda at 43 years old looked like 100 years old. And Tom Brady just comparing the two in their pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, Tom Brady looks at least like he's probably in his late 30s still. And George Blanda looked like he was upwards in his 50s. Like, just that graphic was hilarious to see. Antonio Brown got into a rhythm. Chris Godwin looked great. He was catching a lot of balls. He did drop a couple passes, but he did catch some good balls. Caught a touchdown pass. And I think the X factor for the Buccaneers here was Rob Gronkowski blocking Chase Young. Not only did it help keep Tom Brady clean, but it helped open up Cameron Brate. Cameron Brate had a good game. And I think that goes to because Rob Gronkowski said he had the assignment of blocking Chase Young, and not many tight ends in the NFL can block Chase Young, and holy cow, did he block Chase Young and kept Tom Brady clean, and it just shows what a good teammate Rob Gronkowski is, that you would probably want him on your football team. That says a lot about Rob Gronkowski as of sacrificing his stats to block Chase Young and keep Tom Brady clean, because if the Washington football team was going to win this game, they would need a pressure from Chase Young, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, those guys up front. They would need that pressure, and they got some pressure, just didn't get a lot, and just didn't get what they needed to win the game, and a lot of that goes to Rob Gronkowski blocking Chase Young one-on-one. The next game of the Super Wildcard Weekend. I'm not doing this in particular order, as you can tell. I'm just going like NFC side and AFC side. But the first one that actually started out on Saturday was the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. And the Bills looked good playing this tough Colts defense. They hung 27 on them. It was a good game for them. When they needed the drives, Josh Allen delivered. And that comes... I was watching this game and I was so impressed with Josh Allen. Considering where he was from a rookie in his second year compared to where he is now, he is a superstar. He's a great quarterback, and it just shows the hard work and the preparation he has prepared. And I noticed that when he was throwing, he had that little like jump step that you kind of it looked like he was finally learning to be accurate. Like he had great touch on his passes, and he had like this jump step. I don't know how to describe it because Like, as a quarterback, you want that front toe pointing forward. You don't want that foot closed off because a lot of balls will sail on you that way. And that front toe, that front foot was coming open, and that's good because you didn't really see a lot of that from him his first and second year. And I think just seeing that come open, it's kind of like that jump step is helping him keeping that front foot open. And he's a lot more accurate because of it. He has amazing touch on the ball, and his deep passing has just improved tremendously. I mean, he had a deep pass to Stephon Diggs, and it was like, I believe it was the start of the fourth quarter, and I said at that point the game's over, even though Indianapolis came back with a quick score of their own. But I was so impressed by Josh Allen, his performance, and this Bills team, because I believe this was their first playoff win in nearly 25 years. So, hands down to them. Good job, Buffalo. I'm glad you could pick up a playoff win against the Indianapolis Colts. In terms of the other side, Frank Wright, I believe he made the right decision on the 4th and goal right before halftime. The reason why I say this is because it's the playoffs. You're the 7th seed. You're going to go on the road no matter what. So you know what? Let's just go out and win the game. It's 4th and goal, kicking field goals. That's what loses football games. I fully believe kicking field goals is what loses football games when you're in the red zone. My personal belief is you do not kick field goals if you are under 50. If you're under a 50-yard field goal attempt, or under a 30-yard field goal attempt, you don't kick a field goal. Okay, if you're in the red zone, go score a touchdown. Taking all 4 downs, go score a touchdown. That's what I want to see. And I'm glad Frank Wright did that decision, even though it didn't work out for them. It showed that, hey, this is playoffs. We're not kicking a field goal. We're going to go for the touchdown. It's a 4-point swing, basically. But the play call, it was there. It's just Pittman couldn't bring it in, and the ball was overthrown too. And a lot of people say that if they kicked that field goal, the game would have been tied going, and could have been tied, and they would have had a shot to win in overtime. Well, I disagree there, because even if they did kick the field goal there, Buffalo would still had around 150-ish left on the clock to work with to go score a touchdown, and Buffalo did go score a touchdown at the end of end of the first half, and that proved to be probably one of the factors in that game. But Buffalo probably would have scored a touchdown, and even then it wouldn't have mattered, because Buffalo would have still gotten a touchdown. And also, not to mention, Rodrigo Blankenship did miss a field goal in the second half. So to say that they would have had a tie game if they would have gone for the field goal there, there's just too many variables to say that. I mean, the time left in the quarter, Rodrigo Blankenship missing a field goal later on. So, I mean, if they go to kick that field goal, Blankenship makes it, and Buffalo scores a touchdown, and then Blankenship actually misses that field goal again, it's the same point swing, basically. So that I believe that is that in terms of that game. Another thing I wanted to talk about in that game was the poorly executed 2-minute drill by the Colts. When they got to the Buffalo, I believe it was Buffalo 48 or 49 or 47, around there. They had 3 plays essentially to get the ball around 15 yards for Rodrigo Blankenship's edge of his field goal range territory, and they couldn't get it there. They had 3 attempts basically, and I was really surprised that they couldn't get it there, because, Rivers threw 2 balls out of bounds, and then I believe another one where, he threw 2 balls out of bounds. One was incomplete. All 3 of them were incomplete, but 2 of them were thrown out of bounds. He overthrew his guys, and Phillip Rivers just does not look like a good quarterback anymore. In my opinion, his arm shot, he just doesn't look good anymore, and his throwing motion's so weird too. And and the fact that, why wasn't Jacoby Brissett out there to throw the Hail Mary? Rivers couldn't even get the ball downfield enough, and it was around 48 yards. You want your quarterback to be able to throw the ball more than 48 yards in the NFL, and Rivers couldn't do that. That's concerning to see. So it'll be interesting to see what the Colts do with the quarterback position in the offseason. Does Rivers come back? Does he retire and go into coaching at the high school where he hasn't lined up at? and if he does, where does go for the quarterback position from here? And the last game, sadly, I do have to review, and I have to eat crow here. The Ravens did beat the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans players, the defense came to play. The defense got 4 sacks, which was surprising, and they intercepted Lamar Jackson once, so that's good. They got a turnover and 4 sacks. And if you saw that the Titans defense will hold the Ravens to 20 points, with the Titans offense, you would think, oh, they held the Ravens to 20 points. Well, with Titans offense, they probably scored 31 in the game. They didn't come close to that. They scored 13 points, and a lot of this came down to horrible coaching. Horrible play design, horrible coaching, just terrible personnel decisions on the offense side of the ball. And literally, I never seen anything. When I was watching the game, it was like the Titans offense of old to me. It was like I was watching 2017. No, it was like I was watching 2018 Tennessee Titans offense and 2019 Tennessee Titans offense when Marcus Mariota was the quarterback. It just did not look good. Arthur Smith just didn't adjust to what the Ravens were doing on defense. He was force-feeding Derrick Henry the ball on first down, which was obvious. And then he would run the ball again on second down. So you got an obvious pass on third down. So it set up a pattern of run, pass. And it just didn't look good. And Arthur Smith didn't adjust to that they needed, if they were going to get Derrick Henry loose and going in this game, that they needed to throw the ball in early downs to open up the running lanes for him. And they didn't do that. Arthur Smith didn't adjust, and it was concerning. And I don't know if he was because he was interviewing for head coaching jobs literally right after or before, or I don't know what was going on with Arthur Smith, but he was just not calling a good game. I disagree with Derrick Henry not being in there on 3rd and shorts. If it's 3rd and 2, yeah, he's been stuffed all day, but I believe he can go get it. And that brings me up to another point. Mike Vrabel played the most conservative game I've ever seen out of a head coach, and that's coming from someone who watched Kirby Smart coach Georgia football for the past couple years. Literally. Mike Vrabel not going for it on 4th and 2 in the 4th quarter, early in the 4th, was by far the worst coaching decision I've seen of his career. I never seen, all the analytics, I know everyone's like, oh, analytics, you can't, analytics say go for it there, because, and it showed too, because after punting the ball, the Ravens go down and get a field goal. So, that was piss poor decision making there by Mike Vrabel, and as a Titans fan, that kind of pissed me off there. And then I wanted to bring up that even though Henry, like I said earlier, Henry was clogged all day, he probably could have gotten 2 yards. But I guess another thing I wanted to bring up on the game sealing interception, Marcus Peters did get away with a little push to Khalif Raymond. It was a small push. But based on the way the game was called, it was clean. Okay, Titans fans, don't be salty about this, because it should have never came down to that in the first place. And it does suck that Ryan Tannehill did miss A.J. Brown in that play. He was wide open, but you can't blame Tannehill for that. He was facing pressure, and it was in his face, and he played well all game. And the receiver was pushed down a little, but you just can't get mad at that because the way the game was called, A.J. Brown got away with one earlier with his touchdown catch when he basically pushed Marlon Humphrey out of the way for it. But based on the way the game was called, it was not pass interference, so you just can't get mad at that. And it was, if Titans fans want to get mad at something, and I am mad at this too, we need to be mad at the coaching, because it was poor coaching. It was poor game management by Mike Vrabel. The players hung it out. The defense came to play. And whatever reason, Arthur Smith didn't come to coach and Mike Vrabel didn't come to coach. Because they just didn't come to coach. And it looked like they took the Sunday off and just went straight into the offseason. So, that's that. And the surprise of the weekend, the Cleveland Browns go up 28-0 in the first quarter against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Holy cow. No one saw this coming. And boy, right out of the gate, did it look like Cleveland wanted this game more. Like, I mean, from the first snap, when it went over Roethlisberger's head, their defensive ends just crashed the offensive line, went after the football and got a touchdown right at the bat. And, I mean, intercepting Big Ben, I believe it was 4 times on the night. Their defense came to play outside of that little being inconsistent in the third quarter. That's fine. But their defense came to play. They picked off Ben Roethlisberger 4 times. They scored on turnovers. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt just could not be stopped by Pittsburgh's defense. Jarvis Landry took a slant route to the house. Baker Mayfield looked amazing, and he proved his doubters wrong in this game. And I believe if Baker Mayfield has a similar performance against the Chiefs, win or lose, if he has a similar performance to that, he is their quarterback. You cannot deny that. And even now, I think even with a loss to the Chiefs in the next round, Baker Mayfield is the quarterback to the Cleveland Browns. This is his team, and he is the quarterback. He's the leader there. They snap a 17-game losing streak to Pittsburgh. Not a losing streak to Pittsburgh, but in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. So I believe the last 2 times they were in the playoffs, they played Pittsburgh at Heinz Field and lost both times. And this is a testament to the coaching of Kevin Stefanski. Even though he wasn't there, he had a game plan. He gave it to the coaches. They executed well. And this goes to I can't remember the name of the coach that was basically the interim coach for this game. But hats off to him. They showed they had no fear. They wanted it more. And I have to say, it was an amazing performance by Cleveland. I was watching this game and I was just blown away by it. And I tell you what, I either want the Cleveland Browns or the Green Bay Packers to win a Super Bowl at this point, because I like Aaron Rodgers, but the way the Cleveland showed heart, I would love for them to win a Super Bowl. But anyways, they do have Kansas City next round, so I will be doing game picks in episode 5, the NFL divisional round. I'll be doing game picks for that in episode 5, but they will be playing the Chiefs in the next round, so that's a tough outing for them. As for the Steelers, holy cow. You get off to an 11-0 start, and you lose 4 out of the next 5. And I think Pat McAfee said it right. They just look like they forgot how to play football. I mean, if Ben Roethlisberger's throwing the ball 68 times in a playoff game, I don't care if it's Ben of old, Ben of new, Ben from 10 years ago. You throw the ball 68 times in a playoff game, you're going to lose the game probably. Like, he threw for 500 yards and lost, but he threw the ball 68 times. He was picked off 4 times, threw like 3 touchdowns though. And from the start, it just showed the Browns wanted it more. And I think this is going to be a lot of reflecting in the off-season for Roethlisberger. Or was it his last go? I mean, he's not getting any younger. I believe he's 38 years old or about to turn 38 years old. So he's getting up there in age. He just came off his last season's elbow surgery. So it's just a matter of, does Pittsburgh bring him back? Does he want to come back? Do you need to move on at this point? I think Mike Tomlin has to ask himself as a coach too, like, do I need to get more strict with these players? Because Juju Smith-Schuster gave the Browns bulletin board material, and I think that was a lot of what did them in there, because the Browns came ready to play, and I think a lot of that was because of the bulletin board material by Juju Smith-Schuster there, by saying it's the same old Browns. Oh, we're gonna beat them basically, and you got a lot of soul searching if you're the Steelers general manager, if you're Mike Tomlin, looking at just the way the season ended, losing 4 out of the last 5. I think they need to upgrade at the receiver position. Not in the draft. They have a lot of young receivers. I think they just need to bring in a veteran to show these young guys, because they're young. Yes, they got a lot of potential and they're young. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington, but they're so young. And they dropped a lot of passes this year. They had a lot of inconsistencies. And I think they just need to bring in a veteran that can show them, how to be a receiver in NFL. the day-to-day, the everyday things, little things they can work on, little things like route running, because they're rookies. James Washington, I believe, was in his third year, and the rest of them were rookies. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. So they need to. I think they need to bring in a veteran presence into that receiving room, so they can be taught and just play, get better and develop and play better. So I think that's what they need to do there. Quarterback is a question mark, because obviously whether or not if Big Ben comes back, they're going to have to draft a quarterback or get a young one in free agency somewhere, because they need a quarterback of the future. Maybe it's not in this year's draft because they don't have a high draft pick, but maybe next year's draft potentially too. But no, there's going to be a lot of question marks in Pittsburgh, and it's just a bad way to end your season that way. But hats off to the Cleveland Browns. Got their first playoff win in forever. I believe this is their first road playoff win since like 1968. So, Cleveland, you got yourself a good football team and enjoy it. Have fun. And holy cow, I am rooting for them against the Chiefs hard, because I want to see this team make a run. And I want to see them make a run. It would be fun if the Cleveland Browns make a run. But, yeah, that is my recap of Super Wildcard Weekend, and it was a good slate of games. All the games were close, except for the last one with the Cleveland Browns and the I was about to say the Detroit Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they basically were the Detroit Steelers at that point. They came out and laid an egg, just like the Detroit Lions. But anyway, it was a good weekend of football. I enjoyed it. Even I watched the game Sunday for the Titans game. Yes, it hurt, but you know what? At the end of the game, at the end of the day, and at the end of the game, it's just a football game. No one died. No one got hurt. That's the best you can wish for. Like, you want your team to win, but at the end of the day, no one died. No one got hurt. It's not the end of the world if your team loses, and you just gotta look forward to next year, okay? And that's coming from a Titans fan who loves his team so much. Came up 1 yard short in the Super Bowl. Came up short in the AFC Championship game last year. And came up short again this year. But I tell you what, 11-5 season, it was fun. Division chance for the first time in 12 years. That was fun. My Titans AFC South Championship merch is still coming on. It's still on its way from Fanatics. Unfortunately, I wish I would have had it for the game. But I'm happy, because who knows when the next time the Titans will win the AFC South, knowing it's the Tennessee Titans. So I took the opportunity. I said, you know what? Who knows when the hell they're going to win the AFC South again? I bought some AFC South Championship merch, because why the hell not? It could be another 12 years before they win it again, because it's the Tennessee Titans. I love this team, and I tell you what, I defended this team when they were 2-14. 3-13. I defended this team when they went 9-7, 4 straight years in a row. And I even defended this team when they were 7-9, 8-8. I defended this team through it all. I mean, I fell in love with this team back in the early 2000s when I was 3 and 4 years old. I love this team. Defended 2-14, 3-13, 7-9, 8-8. Name a record, I'll defend them, because holy cow, I love this team. And it's a sucky way to end the season that way, but you know what? I guess you got to tighten up and just go out, make some moves in free agency, get some pass rush help first of all. And Mike Vrabel, hire a freaking defensive coordinator, will you? Because no one wants to see that crap show that was of a defense again this year. I think they bring in a defensive coordinator. Bayard will be back to Kevin Bayard's self. But that's a whole different rant for a whole different episode. I'll do an episode of just Titans and looking at the offseason and what they need to do and all that. I'll do that a little down the line. But anyways, this has been the Payne Report episode 4. Thank you for listening to this. Just have a great day. Have a great week. I will have my NFL divisional round playoff predictions up, and also in episode 5 I will be talking the Doug Peterson firing and Deshaun Watson and what the hell is going on with the Texans there. So all kinds of good stuff coming in next episode and future episodes. Just check out my Twitter, check out my Instagram, check out everything, and have a great day, and thank you for listening. Peace.